what pushes his mind to that is, yes, there was this one instance of almost being murdered, but at the same time, he was already in that hyper aggressive mindset in the beginning of the episode.
Hello and welcome to another Damn Anime podcast. My name is Nick and I'll be your host. Here with me is my good buddy Joe. Joe, how you doing?
Doing all right, man. How about yourself?
Doing okay. I'm just excited to get back into Nier, Automata, the anime. So we are here talking about
Episode 7, right? It's episode 7.
It's what
right?
it should be, but it's not episode 7. It's episode 4. So as you probably already know, the animation studio, the people that animate and do this show, they all got COVID, or enough of them got COVID that it set them back by 3 weeks. So we're kind of 3 weeks behind the original schedule, but that's okay because now we're back and better than ever. Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of hard to remember what was going on when we left off. But basically, now I'm actually trying to remember what happened.
They ended up meeting the variant,
That's
the
right.
machine life form, the one that evolved quickly, and Pretty Boy who got murdered instantly. Then Pretty Boy number 2 spouted from inside of him, and
They were
that's
naked.
kind of where it ended.
Yes, and they were both naked. That was very odd. So where we start with this episode 4 is sort of cold open on some machines, and they are doing a play, some sort of Shakespearean style play in front of other machines. And I don't think the contents of the play really matter. At least in my estimation, they didn't, but it was very like knights and kings and stuff like that sort of play. And one of the machines pretends to die. And, it's very strange. And then it kind of cuts from that and goes into the intro song. So it's just another it's a little bit of a setup for what's going to be happening next, and a little bit of a continuation on, hey, these machines are acting really strangely. But once the intro song and theme ends, we are put back into the resistance camp with 2B and 9S, and they are explaining the weird goings on with the mutant machines, what they call it, but basically the naked man that sprang out of the egg and the other naked man that sprang out of that first naked man. And so they're explaining what was going on there to Lily and to Jackass. Now, quick aside. So I went back and played a little bit more of the opening of Nier Automata, and I found Jackass. Jackass is a real character, as everyone that has played the game more recently than I have probably remembers. But it was it's like a character that's right where she is in the show, but I don't know, maybe there's more to her and what she does than I remember, or than I ever actually played. Maybe some kind of side mission or something. But anyway, so just a quick in, quick out, and I was like, oh, there's Jackass. I guess I have to feel really stupid now for not remembering that, and for saying I maybe think it's a made up character and not really part of the game. So I guess I'm gonna eat shit now. Anyway.
Yep, and it's preserved forever on the internet. So
Yep.
It'll be on your tombstone.
Forgot Jackass. Yeah, that'll be on my tombstone. So anyway, so all that happened, and so it's kind of like a little intro, like, hey, we did. I kind of wonder if they were gonna always have it be that way, probably, because it feels like just enough of a recap to feel natural, but not so much that it's like we had to add that in because we had all these weeks of off time. But nevertheless, I'm glad that they had it. So yeah, so anything that you can think of you want to add, or do you think we can jump on to the next point?
Oh, well, so, in the very beginning, as they're given a discussion about that, they're kind of I mean, it's pretty much as you said. Then later on, I didn't know if you're about to get to this, but when they go back to the space station with the commander,
Yeah, that's
uh,
the next thing.
yeah. So they end up getting a briefing from the moon, the disembodied voice, and then they finally label those two variants of the machine life forms, and the evolution they call them is Adam and Eve. So essentially, one is born, and then the other one is born from the first. So that kind of makes sense. But they also, in a nutshell, just quickly say, uh, "We're not giving you reinforcements. Deal with it. Use the resistance, as fodder, pretty much." And um, they also say, like, we'll deal with the variants like Adam and Eve and other ones that might come up, on like a case by case basis for the
Yeah,
so it's like that is everything boiled down to, and me paraphrasing like heavily.
yeah. So you might be like I couldn't remember if they had actually said the name Adam and Eve. So
They did.
okay, good, because I was like, because I just I can remember if I was remembering that from the game or if they actually said it. So I'm glad they actually said it. So yeah, that is
Yeah,
Adam and
Adam
Eve.
told Eve. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's exactly what the disembodied voice calls it.
Good, good. Okay, so yeah, that occurred, and the commander seemed to be kind of frustrated with the disembodied voice, and that it's basically just telling her tough shit. You gotta just keep doing the mission as it is. So yeah, things are definitely not going the way that our heroes want them to go, seemingly. But the next scene kind of smash cut over to 2B and 9S heading to they head to this um, I guess it's sort of like a castle, but upon entering the kind of castle gates, they see all these machines and they're like parading. They're literally in
Um, So it's an amusement park, actually. They're
well,
heading
yeah.
to an amusement park, but the right before that, I was gonna quick throw in that they they do have a weird edit as well, where they're just standing on top of a roof of the building, kind of
Oh
getting a
yeah.
lowdown explanation, what's a briefing, what's going on, and why they're going to where they're going. And during one of the background scenes, you see a shuttle launch essentially, and that's when 9S explains to be like, yeah, they're sending supplies. There's no way to get supplies up in the moon and up in at the stations, so they're launching resources from planet side up to space. Um, so like they're very much dependent on what's going on the planet.
Yeah,
Um,
so it is kind of like, well, if they're dependent on what's going on the planet, but they're using the resistance for fodder, it seems kind of like, hey, they control what you, I don't know, what you consume or what you eat or whatever. So that seems like a poor plan to treat the resistance in a shitty way. Um, so I don't know what's going to happen with that. Um, but yeah, that's actually kind of an important scene. I think I just forgot to mention it, but yeah, they decide to head to the amusement park. Um,
Yeah, there was a previous radio, they lost contact with the group there, and the message that the commander gave them was the last radio interception was something like, um, "This it's an amusing stage," or something like that, and that it just cuts off there. So that it was like really cryptic and really unknown. It's just like, yeah. So as you mentioned, they when they get to the amusement park, they just see it's like the Mickey Mouse parade or whatever at Disney. It's just everyone doing their, but they're all the machine life forms, and so they're the first thing they're like, wait, okay, these are the ones that aren't attacking us, because they're all yellow eyed essentially.
yeah, yeah. So they're all just kind of doing their thing, and they're like, well, okay, I guess we'll just bypass this and go deeper into the facility. Um, and it's pretty quickly that they go inside, and they end up in that in this the theater area that we saw at the beginning of the episode. Um, and is it here that they see them doing a play still?
So
Because
they start out with it a little bit, and then that's when they introduce the boss, as it were.
yeah, that's it. Okay, so yeah, so I don't know if they actually say the name of the boss, so maybe we won't say that here. Um, but I just know it from the game. But essentially, it is this ultra tall robot, um, and it's it looks like a woman with a dress, but like kind of hideous and strange. Um, and it kills the some of the other machines that were doing the play. Um,
And it's wearing the other units, the previous
right.
one. It has them. So essentially, the uh, the mechanical skeleton, and that it's adorning itself as like jewelry, essentially. And you keep on hearing it talk about like, "Am I beautiful?" or something like that. Um, because
Yeah.
you every now and then you get these snippets of flashback from the robot's perspective, of like a guy in a top hat or like a robot in a top hat, uh, kind of proposing or trying to like, and so it's really odd. It's like essentially two robots in love, and then essentially the female robot trying to uh be good enough for the male like robot, and kind of goes crazy in the process.
Yeah. It starts. So basically, long story short, they have to fight it. So 2B and 9S begin to fight this giant woman robot, and 9S hacks into it, and so he's like basically in its psyche and starts to see some weird stuff. A lot of what Joe just talked about, and then, but you do kind of get to see that it is taking like Yorha unit parts and other robot parts and picking the best ones and then like adding them to its skeletal structure to kind of make this like monstrous sort of thing. Um, and 9S kind of gets messed up from it. So whatever it was doing inside of its psyche, he gets like sucked into this like giant mouth.
Yeah,
Um,
it's literally trying to consume his mind,
yeah,
is essentially because the reason one of the reasons why they were able to find the signal was because the black boxes were still intact. So they were getting a black box signal, and
yeah,
so you can piece it together later on, because he says it later on that the units that are essentially being worn and are surrounding them are still alive. They weren't just like converted. They were actually they were reprogrammed while still being alive, not just killed and then reprogrammed.
yeah.
Um,
So I guess like
and so you can understand that if it ate their mind, that they would still have the body to use.
yeah. So it got a lot of practice doing that. And so yeah, so 9S is in there, and he's about to get his mind eaten, but on the outside, 2B is still fighting, and she's conversing with the pod units and trying to figure out how to defeat this creature. And she suggests doing a hack of her own, um, but the pod says that's not advisable. Don't do that. So we go back inside to 9S, and he gets sucked into the creature's mouth, and he's barely hanging on, and about to just he's about to be done for. And that's when I think it's like he like lets go, and that's at that exact moment. That's when 2B appears and grabs his wrist and is able to pull him out, and then they're able to defeat the evil robot together. How do they do that again? Like, do they just like zap it or something? or stab it, like always.
So what happens is, as she's fighting it, she exposes that there is a core in the center.
Oh yeah, that's
Uh,
it. Yeah.
and so essentially they cause an opening, in which then the pod does a beam blast essentially, at the end, and is able to destroy it that way. So not, since I haven't played the game, I don't know how accurate it is to that. I assume it's close enough. So
I think you kind of just, I don't remember. I know you do damage a lot, and then you might have to go to those beam blasts to knock it out completely. But essentially, yeah, you do expose that thing to it if I remember right, and then start hitting that, and it's just like it's a bullet hell. Like a lot of the boss battles are, but especially that one I remember being a really big bullet hell, and that part of the game was in the kind of the trailer, but the first showcase of the game where they were showing the gameplay at E3 or one of the showcase things. That was that was the fight that they showed because it's fairly early on and it's pretty cool. It was pretty cool at the time. A lot of people liked it a lot. So yeah, so they're able to finally defeat this robot lady creature. And yeah, you kind of get snippets that it sort of went insane from falling in love, seemingly. But it's destroyed finally, and once it's blown up, and there's and 2B and 9S are safe. There's no other creatures trying to attack them. There are these two machines that come out from hiding, and they immediately begin to beg, essentially, not to be killed.
yeah,
And
one of them comes out with a thing of flowers because it's a stage performance. They're like, the whole I'm gonna throw flowers to the actress on stage as a bravo, and yeah. So when the moment she sees the Yorha units, she drops the flowers and then stumbles back, and then the second one jumps in front of them and like as if to shield it, and then starts. Do you remember exactly what they say?
it says like my daughter don't. I mean, in Japanese, it's a little bit more. It was a little bit more. Um, it wasn't as detailed, but in English, it was saying like, please don't kill my daughter or spare my daughter or something like that.
Yeah, and then the moment she's like, "Spare my daughter," like that's when 9S just decapitates the parent unit, and then immediately then stabs the child unit.
Yeah,
So yeah, and then tells immediately then tells 2B that you can't hesitate when killing them.
yeah. It's pretty like I really like the end, like the endings of these episodes, because it like hits you and then cuts off and just makes you think about it with the episode. Like it goes black and shows the episode title, and it's just like, what did it just gives you a second to just think about like what you just saw. But yeah, he just says it very coldly, like looks over his shoulder back at 2B and says, "You can't hesitate, 2B." And it's like, and then black. It's like, wow. So I mean, what 9S just went through in that portion, he was just nearly killed by these creatures. And so whenever they do come out, even though they are, you know, safe, you kind of can't really tell if it really is his programming or his mission or his duty that caused him to just go and immediately kill those other two harmless robots, or if
It does roll back to the beginning of the episode though, when he's talking with Jackass and Lily, because he immediately, Jackass is talking about there's a potential to negotiate a ceasefire. There's been there has been precedent for being able to talk to them, and he's very much against it the entire time. He is almost a zealot in that fact, where he's just like, no, because we can't. We have to kill them all. If we were to do a ceasefire, all of our comrades, what have they died for? What have we spent all of our time for? It all be for like essentially be for nothing. And he's just completely one track mind, where this is, and that's, like I said, it's part of that, quote unquote programming, or how much, but because they're fed this dogma where, the whole, glory to humanity. um it's just like, and this rolls right back to that, though. He practices what he preaches. He doesn't think that
Well,
there's a middle ground.
well, yes, but he also they also decided to keep from attacking um, the machines that were earlier on in the parade, which is a different situation, and they had a mission to go on, but but the like the like kind of coldness that he just went over and slaughtered those other two machines. It seemed to me like beyond just like doing the job. I think that his what he would say in that moment is, "Oh, I'm just doing my job." But I think that there's a little bit more emotionality under the surface. But but like you could say like there's not really anything to
Oh
support
no, he's
that.
a serial killer, hands down. I mean, but at the same time, it's, what the question is he like, what drives him? Is it, how much of it is his own personal experiences, because, he's constantly getting his mind wiped. Um, so there, part of it's baseline programming, but at the same time, is it, did they drink the Kool-Aid? Do they believe how much of it, because you see some of the other ones, like the resistance members, they're skeptical in a lot of ways of, um
What are we doing
they
here?
they yeah, they follow the same protocol, but they're still skeptical. While he's very much like hook, line, and sinker. But you even notice the commander. She starts to set. She shows a little, like, I think she grips her fist, or like she kind of bites her tongue, almost like she holds off
Yeah,
when trying to, when they're given the orders to constantly, like, no, you got to go fight. You got to, you guys got to die. Essentially, she wants to say something, but he then goes like, "Glory to humanity." And she goes, and then she has to pause, and she's like,
she's just
"All
like,
right, now I gotta say, I gotta do my
or
mantra,"
whatever.
and
Yeah,
so that's exactly, but you even see that in her at that
yeah.
moment right beforehand. You see that you feel that she's going to say
A
something,
little
or she
irritation.
wants to.
Yeah,
There is a hesitation there, at least. So in this case, yeah, he's most definitely going above and beyond
I guess.
programming. But what pushes his mind to that is, yes, there was this one instance of almost being murdered, but at the same time, he was already in that hyper aggressive mindset in the beginning of the episode. He's very much,
Yeah,
yeah, like, when you ask why didn't he just murder all the parade people, well, you're clearly asking to be outnumbered there.
yeah.
It's like,
That's fair.
so,
I think
but
that
at this point,
I think that the show is just trying to make you wonder how much is he doing out of duty versus actual malice, actual hate. And it's like, well, it's just trying to make you like wonder how much is what.
yeah. And, all right. So yeah, that was this one, and then the ending for the puppet
The puppet
theater at the
show.
end.
Yeah, I think this is probably the weakest of the puppet shows
For
I've
sure.
seen. It was just sort of like the main the commander ordering them around and them kind of being like, well, I don't really want to do that, and then they just like well,
Some of them desert, and they don't have the manpower to win the war, and then that's how they lost. The end.
and it's like, okay, that's didn't quite have the same pop as the first three episodes, but it's whatever. I still appreciate these puppet shows. Uh, they're they're still really dumb and funny. But yeah, overall, I think it was sort of just a perfunctory episode. Probably the weakest episode I've seen so far. But then again, maybe I'm just kind of getting used to the cadence of the show and how it works. But for you, how did you feel? Did you feel like it was about the same as the others, or how?
Yeah, I feel that it's, it didn't really, it's flushing out, 9S a little bit more. It's showing, you have, like I said, I noticed some of those subtle background details a little more, for myself.
Mm.
Um, they add some questions, like, what was the instance that they talked about in the beginning of the episode about, when Jackass was talking about, you can negotiate peace. Uh, there's a couple interesting points in there, but at the same time, yeah, this is very much a let's go through the motions, let's fight the boss battle. I like the fact that when they go to one of these major key locations like the desert or like the amusement park, it has the title card essentially or the lower third come in like, this is your stage name.
Yeah.
Like up, level whatever, so I was like, okay, that's it keeps me where
Yeah.
I am.
I kind of wonder if the show, like, if the show needs more, not really filler, but just maybe more um, space between locations and what they're trying to do, a little bit more of a build up. Because I do feel like it's like wham this, wham that, bam this, and it's like, okay, I'm kind of getting like, I don't really know what's going on. Um, if I'm
Mm,
watching it as a brand new, like, as a newcomer to this series, I'm like, okay, well, we got this, we got that, we got that, and it's all been kind of thrown at me, but I don't really have a lot of love built for the characters and stuff like that around it. So I'm kind of just wondering if they're trying to squeeze in more than they need to because they're afraid that they're gonna get canceled and not get to tell their whole story. I don't know.
yeah, not really sure. It almost feels like like I said, they're going through the main events. It's kind of paint by numbers. I think it's the action. I kind of wish they would almost carry out or flesh it out a little bit more in their own way
Yeah,
because there's less. They don't want to add too much story outside of the original game, and they don't seem to really. It's kind of hard to translate some of that action scenes because it's in playing the game is more satisfying generally than watching it.
yeah.
Uh, so when you're watching a fight scene, you're like, okay, yep, that's an anime ass fight scene. So 2B slices through a bunch of the enemies in a very anime fashion, and it's like an explosions behind her. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes
Well,
sense, but
you can see, you can see a lot of the seams on the budget there, like when the action starts happening, because it is, especially now that we're getting past the first three episodes, the big money making episodes, until we get to the end at least. We're seeing a lot of pretty stilted animation, um, and cutaways from things that would cost a lot to actually do. So you can just tell that there's not a lot of budget that's going to be thrown at this like a bigger name show, and it's sort of just par for the course, I think.
see, I don't really find a problem with that. The only thing if I would have a quote unquote problem with is their hard cuts from different locations
Yeah.
because they went from Jackass and Company up to space, back down to a random building as they got their new briefing, then cutting over to the amusement park. And it's just like it's very much a hard cut, and I would chastise any movie for doing something similar, being like, okay, we're in a meeting now next scene is the a different group of people, then we're coming back to the main heroes, here they are on horseback, and then quick cut, now they're on foot again. It's kind of something like that. It's just like I'd criticize a movie for doing that. So I would also criticize this for just having too many rough cuts, but I feel that I'm wondering if they're just showing different locations from the game. So when they were on that rooftop, I was like, okay, it's but they
Well,
also needed to throw in the space shuttle. So that instead of it's easier to have them stationary than it is to have them in motion going to the next location.
walking,
Uh,
yeah, and stuff like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
walking or riding, being in a vehicle or something like that. So it's just easier just to be like, hey, um, this is the plot point. Now we're just going to cut over, and you don't necessarily, like we also don't need that filler of
Mm.
yeah, here they are walking, here they are just making idle chatter, but I kind of feel like that I would want a little bit more lore, a little bit more something from him. But Yoko Taro is very much he likes to keep things like close to the vest when it comes to anything lore related, and he likes to sprinkle it as he sees fit. So it's kind of hard to
Yeah,
break that wall.
I think that they're doing these jump cuts to different locations because, like, one thing that you will notice, especially nowadays, but even kind of back then about the game, is that the locations, there's not very many of them, and they're all ugly. They're not they're it's I mean, people liked the graphics whenever it first came out, but as far as like the actual, like just the graphics themselves, like, okay, this is like rendered like this is like high definition or whatever, but the backgrounds and the environments
Okay.
was ugly. I mean, it was ugly from the jump, and it was one of those things where I was like, I don't know if I really want to play this because this game is like ugly in those terms. So I think they don't want to spend a lot of money on making the backgrounds better and also making them look different from the game. And so they're like, well, this is ugly, so we need to move on to the next thing so people don't get bored. I guess I don't know, but it's a show. We'll see where it goes, and we'll keep on talking about it every week.
Yeah, no, honestly, it was a fine episode, and I think it's going in a decent direction. So, anyways, yeah, this was this is their episode 4. You had the name on this one, right?
Yeah, the name of this one is A Mountain Too High.
Do you know why they bracket certain letters of the titles? I've been trying to figure this one out.
Uh,
It's a very stylized choice, but I was just like, I don't know, the H and high is within brackets, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me.
it doesn't make sense. It's just to fuck with you. No, but not always. Sometimes there is a reason. I don't know if there's always a reason. I think there is sometimes where there is a reason, though. I can't think of a time for sure, though, when there was, but yeah, it's mostly just to fuck with you. It's mostly just like it's just Yoko Taro just being weird and yeah, like a lot of Japanese like a lot of anime will have like you know like Hunter x Hunter has an X in it, and a lot of anime have X's or colons or whatever. They don't really understand English letters. They just kind of like, well, it's multiplication too, right? Which is fair. It's dumb, but
I Yeah, I was looking at it. I was looking at it like at first I was like, well, is he trying to do a message like a very simple like, hey, follow the brackets? But then I'm like, by episode 3, you're like, nope, because it's B S M and now H, and I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make squat.
yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anything in all the poking around that I've done that that makes makes it make sense. But for this episode title, "A Mountain Too High," I don't really know what it's exactly alluding to. Um, so maybe we'll find out later. Did you pick up on what they meant by "Mountain Too High"?
So the only thing that I could think of is like either to overcome the odds of for the small man squad trying to fight like the huge army in front of them, or if you're looking at more individual,
The woman.
the one robot trying to um overcome and trying to constantly make themselves better slash worthy enough in their mind for this person,
That's probably
and
what it
no matter
is.
what, it
Yeah.
never seemed to be good enough. And even at the very end, it's just like, constantly asking, am I beautiful? Like, so they couldn't, no matter what they did, they couldn't seem to get like the approval they needed. um so I'm not really sure. Like I said, once again, reading maybe far too into the left field of this one. Who knows?
No,
But
I think that's probably pretty accurate. And then 9S going in and not being able to overcome um, the hacking situation, and then the commander not being able to overcome the disembodied voice. So maybe like a little bit of everything and all in between. But yeah, probably the lady robot, the boss robot is the main point of that. But yeah, anyway, so overall, I thought it was okay. Looking forward to the next one. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you for watching to the end if you did. And we'll see you next time.
yeah, take it easy, guys.
Bye.